On the morning of July 3, 2025, Courtroom Number 7 at the Southern District Federal Court of California resumed the sentencing hearing that had lasted through the previous night. A hearing the public and legal teams widely believed would mark the downfall of Diddy following a series of allegations involving wild parties, sexual abuse, and destruction of evidence. At exactly 9:11 a.m., the jury spokesperson unexpectedly declared, "The defendant is not guilty. All charges are dismissed." The public reacted as if struck by lightning. Live television broadcasts were abruptly cut off as one reporter broke down in tears and shouted, "Where is the justice?" Outside the courtroom, dozens of people screamed and pounded on the press room doors. One person collapsed, clutching a photo of his daughter, once considered one of the key witnesses. The verdict, beyond anyone's imagination, was not only a shock, but also a slap in the face to those who had hoped the justice system would no longer be a stage for powerful illusions, where justice could be bought through underground influence. Part 1, Not Guilty Verdict. Courtroom in Turmoil. On July 3, 2025, in Courtroom Number 7 of the Southern District Federal Court of California, the 35th trial of Sean Combs, widely known as Diddy, officially reached its conclusion. This trial had drawn the most public attention of the year, not only because of the defendant's fame, but also due to the sensitive nature of the charges, organizing years-long debauched parties, sexual coercion, using media influence to silence victims, and most importantly, allegations of evidence destruction and witness tampering. From the early hours of the morning, swarms of reporters gathered outside the courthouse. A wave of protesters packed the sidewalk along the right side of the building. Some wore black shirts with victims' photos pinned to their chests, holding megaphones that blared calls for justice in rotation. The atmosphere was tense and suffocating, like everyone was waiting for something explosive to happen. At 7 a.m., a black SUV carrying Diddy arrived at the courthouse. He didn't exit immediately, but waited until 3 private security personnel formed a human shield to block any view. Shouts of "rapist" and "you'll burn in hell" erupted from the crowd. But Diddy didn't react. He walked swiftly into the courthouse, head bowed just enough to dodge the cameras, his face showing no emotion. The orchestration was obvious. Every movement was cold, calculated. Inside the courtroom, Judge William C. Hanley arrived nearly 20 minutes earlier than scheduled, a rare move for him in previous sessions. According to an official source, the judge had spent the entire previous night reviewing testimony from sessions 5 through 33. He took the bench with a nearly 500-page case file marked with red sticky tabs. But when the verdict was read, just 17 words in total, all of that effort became meaningless. As the jury entered, all eyes were fixed on them. Throughout the trial, 9 of the 12 jurors had previously shown visible concern during the victims' testimonies. Some were even reported by the media to have cried while listening to an audio recording believed to be captured by a victim at a 2017 party. However, at this morning's sentencing, none of them displayed any emotion. Their expressions were rigid, as if they had been coached. The verdict, not guilty on all charges, was delivered like a blade that slashed through the faith in justice that so many had tried to hold on to. Several attendees burst into tears. An elderly woman believed to be the mother of a victim who died 3 years ago had to be carried out of the courtroom unconscious. The prosecution offered no comment, retreating quietly to a private room. Meanwhile, Did's legal team remained entirely silent. No cheering, no smiles, no sign of triumph, as if they had known this outcome all along. Just minutes after Diddy exited through a side door, chaos erupted outside. A middle-aged man wearing a silence breaker shirt tore up his protest sign and screamed, "Is this the America we fought to protect?" A British journalist was shoved to the ground while attempting a live report for the BBC. Federal law enforcement. Officers were ordered to establish a buffer zone between the protesters and courthouse vehicles. Many began chanting "justice for sale," claiming justice had been sold out. By midday, video footage of the public's reaction to the verdict had surpassed 4 million views on social media. The hashtag #JDidDiddyFreeAgain was quickly met with a backlash argued justice, and a clip from Diddy's statement during the first trial session, when he said the truth will be proven, was widely turned into a mocking meme by popular accounts. Human rights organizations, especially the group Justice Beyond Celebrities, issued public statements condemning the verdict, calling for an independent hearing to investigate the trial process. As night fell, people were still outside the courthouse, lighting candles, placing photos of the victims on soggy cardboard signs, and sitting silently. The question was no longer just why was Diddy acquitted, but something deeper. Who erased the evidence? Who gave the orders? And when will justice finally be called by its rightful name? Part 2, the burned envelope, the jury, and the remaining traces of fire. Immediately after the verdict was announced and Diddy exited the courtroom through a private passage, an unusual event quietly took place, one that remained unnoticed by the media until noon. An envelope containing original evidence had been burned right within the courthouse premises less than 20 minutes after the verdict was delivered. The pale yellow envelope, according to previously sealed documentation, contained a raw copy of surveillance footage from Diddy's Home Hills mansion, capturing a private party in 2019, with at least 11 participants, including the 2 main victims of the lawsuit. The prosecution had originally planned to present this footage during the 30-second hearing, but abruptly withdrew it, citing unverified technical reasons. They promised to deliver it directly to the jury during the closed deliberation round. No one could have imagined that even this critical piece of evidence would never reach the public. According to an anonymous source from the courthouse logistics team, the envelope was burned by a juror immediately after the verdict, with the justification being to protect the privacy and human rights of individuals featured in the unreleased footage. However, such an action falls entirely outside standard legal procedures. No prosecutor signed off on the destruction of evidence. No legal representative was present to supervise, and no one has been able to explain why such a pivotal video was destroyed by someone tasked with determining the defendant's guilt or innocence. The third floor of the courthouse, where the envelope was believed to have been incinerated, is designated for temporary evidence storage and is under 24-hour surveillance. Yet, between 9:11 and 9:23 a.m., just 14 minutes after Diddy left the courtroom, the entire camera system on that floor was recorded as having experienced a synchronized signal outage due to internal transmission system maintenance. This information was confirmed by the court's technical department, but no further details regarding the cause were provided. When asked whether this was a coincidence or a deliberate act, they declined to comment. Eliza Carmichael, the attorney representing the group of victims, immediately filed a request for an emergency hearing to review how evidence was managed within the court. In an official statement, she declared, "Burning unreleased evidence is a blatant violation of the right to truth for all involved parties. We reject the notion that such an act can be legitimized under the guise of protecting human rights, while the entire legal system is kept in the dark." The prosecution, surprisingly, responded with an unusually muted stance. Paul Duncan, the chief prosecutor, previously praised for his work on large-scale financial and sexual abuse cases, remained out of public view for 8 full hours following the incident. When he finally appeared late in the afternoon for a brief press conference in the courthouse lobby, he said only one sentence: "We respect the court's decision and will review our entire security protocol." No follow-up questions were asked. No further answers were given. Those familiar with the operations of the California federal court system know this well. The destruction of original evidence before it is made public is a highly irregular act, one that can trigger a federal investigation and require involved parties to testify before the Judicial Oversight Committee. Yet currently, there are no signs such measures are being taken. In fact, internal documents reveal that the entire courthouse security tech team was given scheduled leave just minutes after the incident. One of them has reportedly left the state of California and cannot be reached via personal phone. Several freelance journalists attempted to contact the technical staff who handled the original footage prior to the trial. One of them, going by the alias L, stated that the video file was 18 KB in size, nearly 47 minutes long, recorded on a high-end internal system and had been edited into 2 versions, one for internal prosecution viewing and one with blurred faces for court presentation. But neither version was ever shown publicly, and now the original has been destroyed in flames. Sources close to the investigation have revealed that the envelope burning incident is not the only case under surveillance. At least 3 other documents, including a set of internal emails between Diddy's security team and a list of special guests, were moved outside protocol within the final 72 hours before the hearing. This has raised serious concerns that a full-scale evidence eraser campaign had been carried out with witnesses gradually withdrawing from all cooperation. On the other side, an anonymous user claiming to be a relative of a jury member posted the following message on the Dark Law forum. "We didn't make the decision. Someone brought in a pre-written set of instructions into the deliberation room. We just read it." If this is true, if the not guilty verdict was not the result of a democratic internal debate, but instead guided by a pre-drafted document, then the Diddy case had long since exited the realm of ordinary legal process. What happened after the envelope burned is no longer a behind-the-scenes detail, but vivid proof of a question now burning in the hearts of the public. The burned envelope, more than just a piece of evidence, has now become a symbol of the most pressing question left in the wake of the trial. Who is controlling the truth? Part 3. The empty front row seat. Witness number 7 disappears. On July 3, 2025, just hours after the verdict was delivered and the envelope containing the video evidence was burned, another shocking detail surfaced. Witness number 7, who had previously agreed to testify in court and was believed to be a key figure in supporting the sexual abuse allegations surrounding a 2020 party, suddenly vanished from the court's personnel list. Seat number 3. In the witness row still bore the imprint of a drinking glass and a notepad, but the person meant to sit there never showed up. Her name was Veronica K., formerly a personal assistant on Diddy's logistics coordination team. According to the prosecution's files, Veronica was in charge of guest communications for 4 private parties held at the Homey Hills mansion between 2018 and 2021. In a leaked and verified email, she once wrote, "If he tells me to bring someone into the basement room, I'm never allowed to ask why." That line was regarded as a crucial key to understanding the operational structure behind the alleged secret activities described by witnesses as a system of compromise through power and silence. However, on the morning of July 3rd, when the court called her per the hearing schedule, a court representative stood and announced, "Witness number 7 has been released from her testimony obligation at her personal request due to safety concerns." Not a single attorney objected. No one raised further questions. Reporters only managed to scribble down a few lines, but the entire press corps began whispering the same question. Where is Veronica? By midday, Rolling Point magazine published an exclusive report within 48 hours before the trial took place. Veronica K. had been escorted out of Los Angeles on a private jet landing at a small military airstrip in Nevada, bypassing all customs systems and commercial flight logs. The aircraft, its tail number blurred in images, was registered to a shell corporation based in the Cayman Islands. An internal source from the court security team revealed she was required to surrender all electronic devices, was forbidden from contacting anyone as of July 1st, and traveled under a temporary identity. When questioned, a spokesperson for the federal court simply stated, "We do not release information about witnesses currently under protective programs." But here's the strange part. No record exists confirming that Veronica was ever enrolled in the witness protection program. No one signed off, no transfer paperwork, no medical documentation. Even her official court portrait was removed from all case files as if she had never existed in the trial at all. Under related posts on Threads and Reddit, users began sharing old Instagram photos of her, along with the question, how does a key witness disappear on the exact day of the verdict? One user reposted a hidden story allegedly from Veronica that contained only 2 lines. "I told the truth, but the truth can't survive here." Public opinion quickly split into 2 camps. Some believe Veronica was threatened and forced out of the system to avoid retaliation, while others suspect she was part of a larger orchestration and that her disappearance was a pre-arranged silent agreement. At the same time, several human rights organizations began issuing statements demanding an independent investigation into how witnesses were handled throughout the case. On the evening talk shows of MSNBC and CBS legal experts unanimously agreed. A key witness disappearing just before delivering testimony without any official record is an unprecedented occurrence in federal criminal trial history. A veteran journalist from Slate magazine bitterly remarked, "We didn't just lose a testimony, we just let the truth slip through our fingers." And as the image of the empty chair circulated across social media platforms captioned "Witness number 7 gone like the evidence," the public came to a chilling realization. If evidence can be burned, if witnesses can vanish, and if the system remains silent, then what we call justice may in fact be nothing more than a carefully directed performance behind a hidden stage. Part 4. the invincible network. When lawyers become scriptwriters, if the envelope that was burned marked the first scorch on the truth and the missing witness left the second crack in the wall of justice, then what emerged after the trial was not a fair judicial process, but a staged production pre-written, executed according to script, and shielded by an impenetrable network. A network of individuals who turned the law into a tool to distort and replace the truth. Public court records show that no fewer than 18 lawyers from 3 of the largest law firms in the United States represented Diddy throughout the investigation and trial. Among them, the most prominent and also the most controversial was Wesley Thurman, a former legal strategy advisor to 3 U.S. presidents who had previously handled federal cases involving torture, espionage, and defense budgets. A man who once authored legal denial memos for the Department of Justice now sat beside Diddy smiling in front of the media. Thurman was not just a lawyer. He was the architect of hidden settlements, the designer of gray legal corridors where everything could be legitimized invisibly. An exclusive investigative report by The Intercept revealed that Thurman and his associates met privately with the federal prosecutor 5 times outside the official schedule at so-called neutral locations, such as upscale restaurant suites at the Washington Court Hotel and even a private golf course in Virginia. None of these meetings were documented. No transcripts, no witnesses, and no third-party observers. What's more troubling, 5 members of the jury in this trial had direct or indirect ties to media companies and investment organizations that had previously received funding from entities linked to Diddy. According to an investigation by Dark Vault, one juror was formerly a producer at a TV network known for promoting positive coverage of scandal-prone celebrities. Another had been a legal advisor for an art foundation established by Diddy himself in 2015. When a Vice reporter asked the jury spokesperson whether jurors had disclosed any personal or financial ties during selection, the reply was short. All selection procedures followed court protocol. But protocol, when steered by a lawyer adept at manipulating the system, can easily become a thin curtain hiding an intricate web of power. Behind the scenes, the media network wasn't idle either. 3 days before the final hearing, several major magazines began simultaneously republishing old stories, repeating personal details, many inaccurate or unverified, about the victims who had come forward against Diddy. Certain fact-checking Twitter accounts abruptly pivoted, ceasing trial updates, and posting instead about music cinema or how cancel culture has become outdated. A subtle yet timely and tactical redirection campaign, just enough to shift public attention. In the American legal system, there's a term few outsiders know: procedural suffocation. A tactic of slowly killing a case through technicalities, dragging out timelines, requesting judge replacements, filing repeated appeals, demanding juror changes, disputing evidence access protocols. Every one of these tactics appeared throughout the 12-month span of Diddy's case. And behind the smokescreen stood a small but chillingly effective team who didn't need to break the law, just control who sees what, when, and how. In the 29th hearing, when a witness attempted to describe what happened in the locked basement room of Diddy's mansion, the defense lawyer requested a shift to close testimony, a session closed to the public. The court granted it. From that moment on, the entire testimony vanished from the press record. No one outside the room knew what was said. A journalist from ProPublica remarked, "I couldn't write anything about that day. I'm not even sure it really happened." If justice were a building, the Diddy trial proved this. You don't need to knock down the walls to get in. All it takes is the right key, a back door, and the power to rearrange the signposts. Part 5. Shadowy Fingers. Who is behind the trial? The public outrage following the not guilty verdict wasn't a spontaneous outburst. It was a chain reaction triggered by a sequence of events that, upon closer inspection, revealed that this was never a fair trial, but a meticulously staged production, where the law served merely as a backdrop and all main actors had been precast. No one in Diddy's 35th trial, he once stood as a global music icon, could have imagined the entire legal system being overturned in a single morning. But what's even more frightening is that it wasn't Diddy acting alone. Behind his cold silence, as he left the courtroom, were invisible hands manipulating every detail, from delaying the screening of the Party Number 14 video, to the last-minute change of forensic experts, even to the burning of the video envelope by a juror. Many have begun questioning the role of the so-called Special Authority Fund, a shadowy organization said to influence high-risk federal trials. Over the past 2 years, this fund has sponsored more than a dozen campaigns to protect personal privacy. In federal cases, 3 of which ended in controversial not guilty verdicts, and 2 others saw critical evidence inexplicably go missing. In Diddy's case, the fund did not publicly claim involvement, but a leaked email from the court's assistant clerk revealed that a $2 million grant had been injected into the legal security system just 2 days before the final hearing. It doesn't stop there. An independent investigation by Civic Watch uncovered that among the 14 jury members, 4 had financial ties to a global entertainment conglomerate named Resonant Culture, which had signed a post-P production distribution deal for Diddy's music. This breaks the most fundamental principle of justice, impartiality, and objectivity in verdict-making. The Denver Sentinel even named 3 state-level political figures, 2 state senators, and a governor's chief of staff who held a lobby hallway meeting with Diddy's lead counsel during the 3rd week of the trial. No minutes were recorded, no reporters allowed, no follow-up questions asked. The plaintiff's attorneys, who once vowed, "We will bring the truth to light," have fallen eerily silent since the verdict. 2 of them have even filed for withdrawal from the legal profession, citing that they can no longer believe in the system. Anonymous forums and social media exploded in backlash aimed not just at Diddy, but at the entire judicial structure suspected of serving the wealthy instead of the victim. Hashtags like "Justice was sold," "Phantom Jury," and "Who owns the court" trended to the top within 3 hours of the ruling. An anonymous insider said to have worked in the court's internal technical department revealed, "From the very first hearing, I sensed something was wrong. Evidence was over-censored, videos were spliced. Key witnesses suddenly disappeared without reason." When asked why they didn't speak up, the insider replied, "What would you do when they tell you to stay silent? To save your life?" Now, the not guilty verdict is no longer the end. It's the beginning of a long chain of suspicion. Diddy may have walked out of the courtroom acquitted, but what he left behind is a system deeply distrusted, a divided society, and an anger with no outlet. The question is no longer is Diddy guilty, but rather who is rewriting the rules of the game. Part 6, another version of truth, a leaked recording from an insider. 3 days after the shocking not guilty verdict, while the public's outrage had yet to subside, an anonymous efficacy audio file suddenly surfaced on the forum LibriAx titled Room 19 Final Cut. Flack. The 14-minute file contains what appears to be a leaked conversation between Diddy and 2 other individuals, reportedly recorded inside a hotel room secured by a private encryption system. According to metadata attached to the file, though the audio quality had suffered from multiple layers of encryption, the independent investigative team at Soundcore managed to recover nearly 90% of the conversation using advanced noise reduction technology. What chilled listeners to the bone was a voice believed to be Diddy's declaring, "I didn't get off because I was innocent. I got off because I had Plan B since 2020. They just did their part." A second male voice seemingly in charge of logistics responded, "The 2019 video, the one labeled Locked Vault, was retrieved and destroyed the very morning of the verdict. No one dared hold on to it for long." The conversation also mentioned someone named Malcolm, likely referring to Malcolm Haines, and the cryptic phrase, "a product built to shoulder the system." This triggered speculation that the so-called lawyer wasn't a real person, but rather a manufactured identity designed with a single purpose, to dismantle the logical framework of prosecution in the jury's eyes. Even more disturbing, the recording ended with a quiet chuckle and a chilling remark. "Told you, there's no such thing as justice when you can buy the right to rewrite the rules." Immediately, The Intercept, Rolling Stone, and Reuters simultaneously called on the FBI to verify the authenticity of the tape. But by the afternoon of July 6, 2025, the FBI spokesperson issued only one response. "We can neither confirm nor deny the existence of the mentioned recording." This evasiveness only fueled the growing outrage. A petition titled "Reopen the Diddy Case" gathered over 7 million signatures in less than 48 hours. Legal experts, including former federal prosecutor Annalise Porter, stated, "If the tape is real, then this is no longer about procedural failure. It's judicial manipulation on an institutional level, and its impact will echo in public consciousness for decades." On primetime talk shows, the national conversation shifted. If the law can be rewritten through a ghost attorney, a burned envelope, and a whispered script, then what part of our reality still holds justice may have run its course. But what ran was not what the people believed justice to be. And Diddy, regardless of whether he's now a fictionalized persona, has become the new symbol of disillusionment. A man who survived by knowing every move in advance while the truth went up in flames with an envelope in an evidence incinerator. Part 7. Epilogue. The legacy of a trial erased from memory. On July 3, 2025, exactly 1 week after the not guilty verdict, courtroom number 7, where the historic trial had taken place, was officially shut down for digital upgrades, according to a formal notice. But for those who had worked in the justice system long enough, it was clear this was merely a way to erase the final trace of a case no one dared to refer to by its real name. There were no mementos, no photos of the victims, no archived transcript of the verdict published on the court's official website. Only a single cold, empty line in the case status section closed, sealed by court order. Throughout that week, Diddy made no appearances in any form of media. No press conference, no interviews, not a single post on any social platform. Rumors circulated that he had left California that very night aboard a private chartered flight destination undisclosed. Some theories claimed Diddy was now living under an alias in a secluded estate somewhere in Northern Europe. Others believed he had been removed from the grid by a high-level protective network impossible to trace. Meanwhile, dozens of victims and witnesses connected to the case, people who once believed their voices might change history, were now scattered, silenced, or had simply vanished. Several of their social media accounts were permanently locked due to community standards violations. Some refused to speak. Others left behind only one final post. "Don't ask why I'm silent. Ask why voices are being strangled." As for The Independent, investigators most had redirected their focus toward uncovering the organizations behind the destruction of evidence, but any potential answers seemed to have burned with the envelope. Financial records from the days leading up to the final hearing had abruptly disappeared from traceable systems. The court's internal servers were wiped. Surveillance cameras from that day had all gone offline due to an unexpected maintenance issue. Every trail leading backward was severed like a laser cut, precise, clean, and bloodless. All that remains now are the echoes and a chilling lesson for society at large. Justice does not run on its own. It must be protected with light, with questions, and with memory. The case of Diddy, though officially closed, still lingers like a verdict unspoken. Not for the accused, but for the very system that helped him walk out of that courtroom without leaving a shadow behind.